Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of WordCamp Kent. I'm Tim O'Haver. I'm a member of the organizing effort for WordCamp Kent, and today I get to be your host for one of the most popular and enduring programs offered at WordCamps anywhere, and that is the WordPress 101 sessions. This is going to be the first of 3 consecutive pre-recorded presentations for learning the fundamentals of WordPress. By design, this is a serial presentation of basic information. So the early material is going to be a foundation for what follows later. So if you are new to WordPress, or if you feel like you never started at the beginning with WordPress, stick around, because this first session is going to start at the beginning. And our speaker, Joe Querin, is going to be available to answer questions in live chat during session 1. And so before we start, I want to tell you a little more about Joe. Since 1998, Joe has built and supported websites as a designer and a developer. And along with his web work, Joe has implemented and maintained a variety of server platforms for websites. When Joe goes to work, he partners his creative side with years of problem-solving experience and self-taught programming skills. This is who you're getting today. Today, Joe is putting his experience and his expertise to work for you to present WordPress 101. It's going to be great, so let's get started.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to WP 101 at WordCamp Kent online for 2020. I hope everyone's been enjoying the camp so far this weekend. You've been learning lots of things. Now we have the 101 sessions. This one will cover the basics of WordPress. Then our second session will cover themes and plugins and some other things that you can do with WordPress, as well as our third one will look at the basics of how you can create your own theme, how you can extend themes, how you can use the customizer, and some other things. If you have any questions or comments throughout today's sessions, go ahead and feel free to use the online chat feature below the video, and we'll try to answer those throughout the sessions today. We'll also try to keep our sessions a little shorter, so we have some time for some live Q&A at the end, if it's possible to do. So welcome everyone here this morning, and we hope that you have learned lots this morning and the rest of for the day, and enjoy the rest of WordCamp Kent for this weekend. So we'll get into WordPress 101, the basics, as I mentioned, WordPress basics. My name is Joe Querin. A little bit about me. There's my photo, since you can't really see me right now, but I actually was a graphic design major in college, and I'm actually also a self-taught web developer for the last 22 plus years. For those 22 plus years, I've been spending 20 plus of that at Learning County Community College, working as the web developer there, supporting the back end of the website and helping to make sure everything functions and runs the way we expect. I've been using WordPress for the last 10 years. I actually started using it for a single simple purpose and saw the power of it and extended it across the campus. We moved our college website to WordPress a few years back, and we've been continuing to make updates and changes and adding on additional sites and content within it, as well as been able to work on additional sites at the college as well. So we've really been utilizing WordPress quite extensively. So this morning for the WordPress basics, we're going to go over the what, where, why, and how, and when of WordPress. What is WordPress? Where did it come from? Why would you want to use it? How can you use it? And then when might be the right time for you to use it? We'll also look at the 2 different versions of WordPress, WordPresscom and WordPress.org. We'll see the differences and the similarities there between the 2 versions of the product, and which one might be best suited for your needs. We'll dive into a demo of the WordPress Dashboard and look at some of the features and the functionality are within there. Even if you have a WordPress site, You might find some things out about the dashboard that you didn't know about. Maybe some of the questions you might have had, how does this work, or how can I configure that? We'll go over some of the basics within there as well. And hopefully we'll have some time to go over some WordPress support and documentation resources that you can use to further extend your knowledge and further gain additional knowledge on how you can use WordPress. And then hopefully we'll be able to have a live Q&A at the end of this session. And if not, we'll spill that into the next session as well. So what is WordPress? WordPress actually started out as a blogging tool, as a blogging platform way back in the day. And as people started to use it more and more so, they found that it had more and more purposes other than just as a WordPress, as a blogging platform. They saw that the potential to use it for other sites and other site content. And so it really stood out as a personal publishing platform, or really the mission statement of WordPress is to democratize the publishing platform, the publishing on the internet, and be able to give anyone the power to create a site and be able to update their site rather easily. Now, as we mentioned, there is two different versions of WordPress. There's the .com version and there's the .org version. The .com version is one that's hosted by the parent company of Automatic. There is a free version. It allows a limited number of themes and plugins that you can choose from, but the free version does include the WordPress.com domain in part of the URL. So if you want to have, say, I want to have a site called Joe's site, it would be joes.wordpress.com, or however you want to name it. There is a paid at various levels, and those various levels start to unlock different functionality within your WordPress.com site, including a custom domain. You can even get to a version level that allows you to have custom themes available or custom plugins that can be uploaded. So it definitely depends on how much your budget is, how much you can spend. But it is all hosted by Automatic, and they have support engineers that are available for you through chat to be able to help you out with some of your questions about your site. But it really takes away some of the headaches of having to wonder, how do I keep this updated, or those types of matters. They take care of all that for you. Now, on the flip side of the coin, the .org version is the same as the .com, except for now you're in complete control of everything. You have to choose your host. And what I mean in your host is your WordPress has to live somewhere on the internet. So you have to choose the hosting company that you want to have host your site. Once you choose your hosting company, your host may have different ways that you can install WordPress. They may already have it pre-installed for you, or they may have an installer within the control panel that you can use, or they might even give you the ability to connect directly to your server and use the WP CLI tool, or the WordPress command line interface, to be able to install WordPress yourself. With the .org version, you have no limitations in terms of themes and plugins. You can use anything that's in the WordPress.org repository, or even ones that you've paid for. Premium themes, premium plugins. You can even write your own custom plugins or themes that you have built, or that you have someone else build for you. You may work with a designer or a developer that's able to write these things for you and write them to your specifications exactly, to be able to customize what you exactly are trying to solve within your own website. So the .org version does give you a multitude of features, a lot of different things that are available for you, but it comes with a certain skill and knowledge level that you need to be able to work with a hosting company, or build the servers yourself, or have some kind of environment like that. Within the college, for what I take care of day in and day out, we have our own account with Amazon Web Services, and I actually built our own servers and have all of our site files hosted on those servers. So we have actually absolutely complete control over our install, even down to the server level. So if we need additional capacity on the server level, we're able to add that ourselves, but we have to do all that work ourselves. If you choose a hosting company, then you can work with your hosting company. But once again, just like with the .com version, it's depending upon what you have as a budget. What do you have available to you in terms of funds, in terms of money, for you to be able to pick the plan that not only your site will run well on, but also that you can afford month in and month out. Some hosting companies also do have by the year. So you just need to shop around, look at and compare different hosting plans, talk to those that might be a little more knowledgeable in this terms. And a WordCamp like this is a great time to be able to find those types of people. Normally I tell you to go out and grab them in the hallway, find a speaker, someone like me that has been talking this weekend, helping you to understand the ins and outs of the WordPress landscape. But we're virtual this weekend. But we do have a hallway chat in Slack. So I invite you to check out Slack if you haven't already, and you can get your questions answered there in the happiness bar or the hallway chat, wherever you find someone knowledgeable. And even in the days to come after WordCamp Kent is over, some of us will still be available on things like Twitter. And there's also Facebook groups as well, if you're on Facebook, that you can find for WordPress and be able to connect with those individuals who might be more knowledgeable and be able to help you out with your questions. Getting back to some of the what, the why, the whens, the hows of WordPress. Well, how would we use WordPress? So what would we want to use it specifically for? Well, basically, you can use it for a lot of different things. You can use it for a blog, like it was originally intended, like it originally started out as. You can use it for a website, like I do when some of the work that I've been using WordPress in. You can also use it to build your own social community. There's plugins that allow you to extend WordPress to be able to create user accounts, to be able to create a social community similar to Facebook or similar to some of your other social online communities, like the former Google+. You can also use it as a web application framework. And what do I mean by that? Well, WordPress gives you some of the basics that all web applications kind of need. For those of us who develop web applications on a day-in and day-out basis, there's some of the mundane stuff that we do on a regular basis that WordPress takes care of and allows us to develop faster, allows us to create our applications quicker, and it saves us some time and headaches. Things like being able to create user accounts, being able to manage user accounts, being able to create content, be able to upload files, be able to manage those files in some kind of a library, ways to publish page content or other content. A lot of people have been using WordPress, even the Power Mobile applications. So there's lots of different ways we can use WordPress other than just as a website or as a blog, and we can talk about those more. As I mentioned, you can even power a mobile app. There's an online company that has a theme and a plugin. You can actually use WordPress to create a mobile application that is native to your OS, whether it's the Android OS or to the iOS, and you can create a native app that runs in the App Store and can be installed to users' phones, and then you can just log into a WordPress website and be able to update content, or your end users can as well, to be able to push notifications out, push content out to the end users. Really is a very cool thing that you can do with WordPress. So where can I find WordPress in use, you might be asking? Well, you might be surprised to know that WordPress is in use in more places than you probably ever thought of. WordPress is used in educational websites. Matter of fact, there's even a group that forms a camp each year, similar to what we have here with WordCamp. It's actually the WP Campus. And this year, just like a lot of the other WordCamps, they're online, and they're going to be later in July. So you might want to check them out. It's wpcampus.org. And I was actually at the inaugural one, the very first one they held down in Florida, Sarasota, Florida. And I was able to speak there. And it was really an interesting time to be able to spend with other educational people that have used WordPress a lot of different ways. I never thought of using WordPress in the education sector. There's even ones that use WordPress in their teaching, be able to support their online courseware and online classware. And now that so many of us have found ourselves at home, so many more schools, K-12 schools, are even moving to WordPress just because of the ease of use and the functionality and the features that are available within WordPress. Various music artists and bands actually use WordPress. You might be surprised, maybe some of the bands that you like to listen to, the artists you like to listen to, when you visit their site, you would never know it's a WordPress site under the hood. But you've been using music labels have been using WordPress a lot more because of the ease of use and because of the features and functionality. Once again, just like education has found a good use with WordPress. Well, and nothing. What is a blog after all? But basically, an online diary or newspaper type content. So it's not surprising that many newspapers have also moved from the print page to the online page and using WordPress to do that. A number of years ago, I actually read a rather interesting article about a newspaper that used a mashup of Google Docs and WordPress to actually create a publishing workflow. And they were even able to use that same workflow to send right down to the print press to continue producing the regular printed newspaper. So it was pretty cool to read about how they were able to do that. And more newspapers have been taking that conversion to WordPress on. Some other places that you may find WordPress and you wouldn't think of was a number of years ago, I heard about Microsoft converted all of their blogs from WordPress or to WordPress from a .NET based blog of software. And for those of you that know a little bit about programming, .NET based blog basically meant Microsoft wrote it. And Microsoft used it for a lot of their TechNet blogs and some of the other developer type blogs, product blogs. And now they've converted all that over to WordPress, and they've been using WordPress for a number of years. Rather interesting. It's hard for me to fathom, at least, being in IT for as long as I have, thinking of WordPress as embracing open source software like they have. But they really enjoyed using WordPress and have continued to be using WordPress. The popular online tech site TechCrunch actually uses WordPress as well for their backend to be able to support all of their content. And if you know anything about TechCrunch, they occasionally get thousands upon thousands of people visiting, reading all the different articles and the different news, everything from what's the latest thing Apple's doing with the new iPhone or iPad down to things about open source software and viruses and all the different things that are going on the internet. And so that they actually use WordPress and are able to support thousands of visitors and be able to support all the content that they post on the site as well. Believe it or not, too, Disney actually uses WordPress for quite a few things, quite a few sites. And matter of fact, if you go over to the WordPress showcase on WordPress.org, you can find in their featured business sites a website from Disney, and I think it's under the business tab. I saw it earlier. There's about the Walt Disney Company, and so it actually talks about how they used it and what they used it for. And you would never believe that that site is a WordPress site. It looks like just any other site that you might visit on a regular basis on the internet, doesn't it? And yet this is powered by WordPress. So rather cool. A lot of the other things that the Disney has for some of their home entertainment lines and some of the movies and other content are actually supported by WordPress as well. Back when I got to go to WP Campus during that first year, I actually met a gentleman who works for Disney and learned some really interesting things from him and how he's using WordPress and doing some really interesting front-end work in JavaScript and some other things for Disney and for WordPress. So it was a good time to hear, and it surprised me to know that this large corporation is actually embracing WordPress as well. So how could you make use of WordPress? Well, as we mentioned, you use it for a blog, for a website, for e-commerce, really whatever type of site you may need. Don't think that WordPress may not be able to support what you're trying to do. WordPress can be used for just about any website that you find out there on the market, and you'd be really surprised, as I said, if you looked under the hood of a lot of the sites that you visit on a regular basis, to be surprised to see that WordPress is in use that heavily. WordPress.com hosted install like I said, through a hosting company, or self-hosted through something like AWS from Amazon, or even Google Computing, or some other server that you're able to have access to. As long as you can install PHP, you have access to a MySQL database, and you have some kind of a web application software like Apache or Nginx that can serve out your PHP pages, you're able to install WordPress. And it's really just a 5-minute install once you do have access to that server. And so it's pretty amazing what you can do. So let's look at the WordPress dashboard. And I'll flip over to, and this is a site that I spun up here locally on my laptop. It's a demo site that I use to check out the latest versions of WordPress. And I just updated and made sure it has the latest and greatest version of WordPress. So if you have a WordPress site, you're probably familiar with going to /wp-admin, wp-admin in the URL bar. And that takes you to a login screen. And it looks something like this. Now, because I'm on a local install, this isn't a very secure username and password. So you would not see, or you should not be using admin or a very short password like I'm using here. You'd want to use something that was more secure, maybe even an email address, something that you set up just for accessing your WordPress site. Might even be a better security feature as well, especially anything that's being used in production, because things are constantly hammering against your sites on a daily basis. I look at some of the log files behind the servers that I run for the college, and I'm just surprised at the number of hits and entries that are slamming against those boxes. So this is your WordPress dashboard. And because I just recently updated the WordPress and I reset my cookies and things, this is what you would see if you had just installed WordPress. You have the welcome to WordPress. We've assembled some links to get you started. And they have a get started where you can immediately jump into customizing your site or changing your theme, even into next steps and more actions. If you notice, there's a site health status now. WordPress has actually run some status checks behind the scenes. You have this at a glance feature, which tells you what your current WordPress version is, version 5.4.1. I'm running the 2019 theme. I have one post, I have one page, and I have one comment. If this was a site that was actually in production and was being used, you should see a ton more posts, a ton more pages, and probably a ton more comments as well, even if you think you've turned commenting off. Some of these spam bots have ways to get stuff back in there, and we can talk about that more later on. You also see an activity piece. You happen to see here's WordPress events and news, WordCamp Kent online. Funny we should see that. This WordPress events and news actually uses some information about your internet connection. Be able to find things that are close to you that WordPress Central knows about. Be able to help out with spreading news and information in the WordPress world, be able to help different ones to see where they can go to get help. You also notice there's WordCamp Kent, the WordCamp Kent 2020 online, and there's even some more info. And you can click on any of these and it'll take you right to the site that you're familiar with, the site you bought your ticket from. Then you can check out the schedule, find out about this session at. Right above that is our quick draft widget. This actually allows you to put in a title and content and click save draft. So let's say you had an idea for a blog post and you don't have time to flesh out that blog post, but you just want to at least get the title and a little bit snippet of information so that when you come back to it to continue writing, you're reminded of what this great idea you had was. You can log into your site and actually type those 2 pieces of information in and hit save draft, and it will immediately create a blog post in your post section that's saved as a draft so that you can come back to it and finish it out later. So over here on your left, you have the dashboard in blue that tells you where you are. You notice the little arrow kind of giving you that indication of this is where I'm at currently. Below that is home, which brings you right back to this screen. Then you have your updates, which lets you know if you have anything that you need to update. If I did, there'd be a little circle here at the end of updates with a number inside. And the number of updates would be of everything that needs to be updated in your site. So it could be WordPress core. It could be themes. It could be plugins. It could be any number of your plugins or themes. So if you have a lot of plugins installed, you have a lot of themes installed. Just quickly, you may be asking yourself, what is a plugin? What is a theme? You're talking about all these words I don't really understand. Well, a plugin is something that you actually add into your site to give your site more functionality. So let's say that I was running a WordPress site for a local theater, a local movie theater, and I wanted to add a calendar of movies and their show times. I could add a calendar plugin that would then allow me to publish movie times and show times for the different movies. And you'd be able to see these in a calendar on the page, or be able to see a list of calendar dates along the side of the screen. However the calendar plugin worked, or however the theme was developed to allow you to see those things. Themes, on the other hand, is more your look and your feel. And the look and the feel is more about how the WordPress site looks. How does the headings look? How do the subheadings look? How do the paragraphs look? What kind of font am I using? What colors am I using? Where do things appear? What does my menus look like? Do I have the option for hero images? Do I have the option for just small images? Themes give you a lot of things. There can be some crossover between themes and plugins, which we'll talk about that later in the themes and plugins section. But for now, that gives you some of the basics of what a theme and a plugin is. So as I mentioned, you have posts. So post is exactly what you're thinking of. It's your blog posts. This is your content that has kind of a expiration date, so to speak. Most times your content won't expire. You could install a plugin like we've done it for some of those posts on the college site to be able to actually expire posts, and it removes them from publication, returns them back to a draft status so they're not found on the site. But your posts are more of those journal entries. They're more of things that might be something you're thinking about at that time, that you post them at a certain time, and then they just kind of fade away. It's not necessarily things that are going to be static and going to be there all the time. Posts are also things that you might categorize or you might tag to be able to help people to find other things. So if I was a food blogger, I might have a recipes category. I might have a dining category. I might have an appetizer category. I might have this and that. And it's once someone finds your site either through Google or through a Facebook post, or through someone sends them a link and says, hey, go check out this post, I really think you might like this. It allows the person to be able to explore your site, be able to see other things that are in categories, maybe other things that are interested in. Under posts, we have media. And media basically is where you upload, or where your uploaded images are located, where Word documents. You could even have audio and video that's hosted here. I don't really recommend having audio and hosted on your site for a couple of reasons. If you're paying for a hosting plan, or basically any server space you're hosting for, you're hosting for or paying for a certain amount of space on that server. It might be a few gigabytes. It might be less than a gigabyte. Most of the time, you're probably going to be looking at a few gigabytes in storage space. Your audio and video are going to eat into your storage space. Believe it or not, you wouldn't believe how many pictures that you'll end up uploading over the time of creating blog posts or creating pages. And those images will multiply very quickly. And if you upload very high-res images, well, then again, you're just taking up more server space. Add in audio and video, which can easily take up gigabytes at a time. They're just asking for a lot of wasted resources or wasted money, where you could then host your videos maybe on YouTube or another video streaming service, or your audio on a podcast service. The podcast services you might have to pay for, but the pricing is probably going to be less than what you're paying for storage space at your host. The other thing to take into account is if you're hosting audio and video, those video files also need to be played back. And a lot of times YouTube and some of your other hosting companies for audio and video, they're able to supply the alternative formats that make your audio and video files work across multiple platforms that much easier. Plus, it also takes away some of that strain from your web server. It allows your website to be more responsive. So really, I recommend uploading images, documents, PDF files, content like that you need on your site that you can't really host anywhere else. And we can talk about some more advanced things in terms of where else you could store those pictures and video or images files. Pages is, as I mentioned with posts, pages is more of your static content. So you might create, instead of using your top your last 10 latest blog posts as your homepage, you might want to have a big hero image and maybe a welcome to my site, here's what we do, and then have some links to your services or your products. And then maybe have your blog articles at the bottom of the page. So you're going to want to create a home page, and you want to create a static page. Well, the Pages tab is where you do that. The editor is the same as the posts, except for in this time, we're actually creating page content. And so we're more categorizing page content. We're not tagging page content. Now, there are plugins that allow you to be able to do things like that. But really, I find Pages to be more useful for static content. Your privacy policy, your author bios, things like that, you might use Pages for more so. On the college site that I work with day in and day out, we use Pages more than we use posts. We use Pages for all of our page content. And like I say, it's just, your page content is never going to go away, or at least we hope it will never go away. You're going to edit it, you're going to modify it over time, but your products page is always going to be there. Your home page is always going to be there. Your about the company page is always going to be there. Comments is where you can view your comments that are on your blog posts, on your pages, even if you enable comments. As I mentioned, you might disable comments, and we'll show you how you can do that in the settings. But even then, your comments, people still get comments through. And this allows you to be able to see the comments en masse, be able to delete them, be able to respond to them, to choose what you want to do with them, whether, or even if you even want to approve them and allow them to be published under your blog or your site. So the appearance is where you can change your theme. And as you can see, these are the themes I have installed. If you notice, there's a common thread running amongst all these themes. They're all 20-something. 2015, 2019, 2017, 2016, 2020. These are default themes that are shipped with a new WordPress install. And so 2020 came in with this WordPress install when I updated from the version I had running before to the latest 5.4.1. And basically, these are good themes to have around if you're looking to get into theme development, or even if you just want to use something basic to get your site started. You can see a little preview. You can also hover over and see activate, or you can see live preview. If I click live preview, it actually allows me to look at the site in the customizer and allows me to see how my site would look if I applied this theme. Until I hit activate and publish, this theme is not applied though. I can close out, I can look at another one. I can click on for theme details and see some theme details about it and see what all it allows me to do. I can even see a screenshot of what it could look like if I enabled it. The customize is what I mentioned is the customizer. This is something kind of new to WordPress, but it's been around for a few years now. The customizer allows you to actually update in real time things about your site. So here I can see the tagline. I can change the tagline from just another WordPress site to Joe's blog if I wanted, and click publish, and it takes effect. If you notice, when I have the demo, I could call this Joe's site, there's a little gear icon. I can actually choose to when I want this to publish. So let's say I was making some changes. I'm going to launch a new company at the end of the week. And so on Monday, I go in and I make all the site changes to change all the company name information on the site, but I don't want it to go live until Friday. I can actually schedule it to go live on Friday, or I can save it as a draft, and then I can come back and edit later and continue making changes. So that's actually kind of cool. Widgets are rather interesting for the site. Widgets allow you to have little areas on the page that do some kind of special functionality. So in this case, there's a footer widget, and inside of the footer, or the footer widget area, inside there is a search widget, a recent posts widget, and a recent comments widget. If we go back to the site real quick, and I just open that in a new window here, you can see here's the search, the recent posts, and the recent comments. So this must be the footer section. If I wanted to, I could add additional things. I could add an image. And it's as easy as dragging and dropping. Notice there's little dash boxes. I can then go and click add image, and I can upload a file. And from here, I could upload, let's see if I have anything. I can upload a picture of me. I can click add to widget. I can click save. And if I refresh the page, there's my image of me. Now let's say I want that to appear at the top. I could just easily grab the image and drag and go up to the top of search. And now I can have have my image at the top. I refresh, and there's my image at the top. So just some simple clicking and dragging, you saw how easy it was for me to add that. There's a whole host of other widgets available out of the box with WordPress. You can explore those on your own. Some of these things you can use. Additionally, you can use custom HTML, and you'll be able to actually drop in custom HTML, even custom JavaScript, be able to do certain functionality on your site. As mentioned, you have menus. Menus are how we navigate a site. So we're used to like a top level menu or maybe a left-hand navigation menu. You can actually create those in WordPress. And once you create a menu, so let's say I create primary menu, click save menu, I can choose my display location. So I can save as primary, and I can create a custom link, let's say to Google. I can click add to menu. I click save menu again. And now when I refresh, there's my menu up at the top. It's nothing too fancy, but if I add another, so let's say I add to 2020.kent.wordcamp.org, WordCamp Kent, click add to menu. I can click save menu, and you see it just puts another one right next to it. I could choose that this is going to be a sub item of Google, and now when I refresh, notice it gives me the arrow, and I hover over, and it gives me my navigation. So rather kind of cool functionality within WordPress. And it's functionality that you may not have had to worry about before, but functionality that now anyone can do just from a couple clicks of a button. So it looks like we're running a little over where I thought, so we'll just keep going here, and we'll try to combine some comments in the second session, questions in the second session. So here is a theme editor. I recommend if you're new to WordPress, new to HTML, new to this whole world of website, do not touch the theme editor, because the theme editor can cause you to actually break your site if you're not exactly sure of what you're doing. And even if you are sure of what you're doing, I have broken many of a site just trying to edit something because I thought, oh, I can just make the change right here on the server and not have to worry about actually going through all my change control and getting it published out. So I really recommend that you're not touch anything, but if you're in a local environment like I am here, your sandbox, this is the only place where someone can access the site. No one else is going to be, you're not relying on this to be your production website, then have at it. Look at the themes, see how it was built. That's what the 20 themes are great for, being able to look at them and see how they were built. There's lots of comments within them. You're able to look at things and be able to see how something works. I can click on single page here and see what it does. It's a template for displaying all single posts, and there's some of the PHP, and you can see there's more comments in there to let us know how the code is exactly working. As I mentioned, plugins. So this is your plugin area, and plugins allow you to be able to see. No, that was interesting. Okay. Plugins actually allow you to see all the plugins that you have here. See, I have 2 plugins, but they're not activated. If I click activate, then it's available. And Hello Dolly, which just pulls in a couple of lines from the stage show Hello Dolly, just appears right here up in my browser. If I deactivate, you'll notice it goes away. Akismet anti-spam works with your comments. You need to set up an API key. If it's something you're going to be using for a corporate site, then they recommend you get a paid plan, and it helps you to eliminate the spam and that type of stuff that happens on your site in terms of commenting. You can click to add new, and if you click add new, this allows you to actually search the WordPress.org repository. You can see all the different things that are available here. There's Jetpack, which gives you some WordPress.com features on your WordPress.org website. The classic editor, if you don't like the new Gutenberg block editor, and we're going to talk about that one later, the classic editor actually allows you to go back to the previous editor that was prior to the block editor. I really like the block editor and try and use it more and more. The classic editor is what we still use on campus. The users is where you can define new users, or you can modify users that are within here. So if you want to give additional people in your company or your organization be able to rights to be able to edit or add content to your WordPress site, then it's as easy as just coming in here, clicking add new, and changing their role. Roles in WordPress subscriber just allows people to do like a view only, so like a membership type site. They can register on the site, get a username and password, and then they can log in, and whatever other functionality you might add to that site would be you would be up to you. Contributor allows people to contribute content, but they can't publish any content, and they can't edit currently published content. Author allows you to actually create new content. Editors allow you to create new content, edit existing content, publish content, and then administrator allows you to change all the site settings. An editor and author wouldn't be able to change site settings, wouldn't be able to change themes, plugins, appearance, might not even be able to edit widgets or some of the other things, whereas an editor would be able to, or an administrator would be able to. Administrator can change everything. They're kind of like the overall account in the system. You don't want to have too many administrators because people can then change things on your site. They can even actually delete your site if they have the administrator level. So I really recommend in an organization you only have a handful of administrators, maybe one or two, and then you have editors and you have authors. And I haven't really found a use for contributors or subscribers, but maybe your site, it might prove beneficial to you. And you can check out in some of the support information how the subscriber and contributor work. Under your tools give you the ability to do different things on your site, like import and export. There's actually different importers that are available that you can install. So if you're bringing your site over from a Blogger, which is I think Google owns that now, a Blogger blog, or a LiveJournal blog, or movable type or typepad blog, or even Tumblr, you can bring in your sites. Let's say you're out on WordPress.com and you just got so comfortable with it, it got so big, you want to do more with it, you just chose to go to a .org install, you could actually export your WordPress.com blog and actually import it here into your WordPress.org blog, and it would move everything over for you. And then you'd have all the abilities that you have with the .org installed just with all of your content from your .com site. So that's actually really useful. You might also want to import and export between production and your local install. So say you have a local install like I have here, and you want to try out some new functionality, you could export your production install, import it into your local one, and then be able to apply new themes, new plugins, write some things, even if you're inclined to try to write your own plugins or themes, and see how it works with your production data. It's actually a good way to test things too. In case you encounter an error in production, you can pull everything out, look at it locally, pull it apart, look at all the behind the scenes stuff, even look inside the database if you have access to that on your local install, and really be able to see what's going on. You also have your site health. The site health tells you the status, and because I'm on a local install, it says it should be improved because I'm not running all the secure stuff that I would run in production. In production, this would be green for me. Because of some of the stuff in the UK, some of the personal privacy things, there is the ability to export personal data and erase personal data. So someone could actually, if they were a subscriber, they'd be able to come in here and say, put in my email address or my username. I send a request to get an export of my personal data, and then ask for my personal data to be erased. And that way, if I decided I wanted to break all ties with that website, I could get all of my stuff back. So here on your settings page, and I'm going to try and go through this kind of quickly. I only have a few minutes left in this recording, but I'll try to follow up in the next recording what we can cover and what we don't get covered in settings. But in your general settings, you saw like what you saw in the customizer. We have our site title, we have our tagline, we have actually our WordPress URL, our site URL. The WordPress address is actually where you have WordPress installed. So you could have WordPress installed in a subdirectory, but the site is actually in the main directory. I always install WordPress in the root of the website. I don't install it in a subdirectory. The administration email address, whoever's the email administrator, you can change that to a new email address. You can choose whether anyone can register, what the default subscriber role is, even down to your language, your time zone, your date format, your time format, and what day your week starts on even. Looking at the writing settings, when you create a new blog post, you can choose what category. I don't have any categories defined, or else I'd have a list of categories. I can also choose my post format. Post formats allow a developer to actually extend various looks to your content based upon what format you're using. So whether it's a standard or it's an aside, a chat, a gallery, a link, an image, a quote, a status, a video, audio. I've seen a lot with like quotes where maybe they just have a little quote of the day saying that they post, and it puts big quote marks around it or something. There's some really unique formats I've seen there. Post via email, you can actually set this up if you have an email account attached to your server, have email services available, and you could actually send an email to WordPress to be able to create a blog post right from an email. They're really kind of cool. I haven't used it. On your reading settings, this is where you change whether you want latest posts or a static page. And once again, if I had more than just a sample page, I could choose that for my home page. I could choose another page for my post page. And then I could, in my post page, I could use a template that then pulls in all my posts. You can also choose how many posts to show, how many RSS feeds you want to show if you're pulling in RSS into your site. And for each post in the feed, you can choose full text, or you can choose the summary. Discussion allows you to change about your commenting features. Media allows you to set different sizes, and there's ways to do this in the theme as well. There's also your permalinks, which is how your URL looks. If you notice back here, when I click on this hello world, you see that it has the year, the month, the day, and then the blog title. You can choose how that appears, or you can choose just post name. If I click that and hit save changes and come back and I refresh, you see now it lost the page. But if I go back to my home page and I click on hello world, now you see that it's just hello world. It took out the date in there. So this allows you to choose how you want your URL to show. It's called pretty permalinks essentially in WordPress, and we can talk about that more later as well. And then your privacy is how you can choose your privacy policy, or you can even choose to create a whole new page. It's recommended nowadays that all sites have a privacy policy, and a lot of national, international privacy laws encourage you to have a privacy policy. And so you can actually choose which one is your privacy policy, and then it allows you to have a link in the footer to your privacy policy. So I'm sorry I went over a couple of minutes, but I hope you found this session informative and helpful. And like I say, if you have any questions, please direct them in the comments, and we'll try to follow up with a live chat in the next section. In the next section, we'll continue our discussion here. We'll go over our support resources, and we'll dive into plugins and themes. Thank you for joining me.